All right, let's talk about a watch that proves you should probably stop judging things by how much space they take up in your jewelry box. Because this little thing, this tiny little watch, has a big name. And I can almost guarantee most people would look at it and think, cute little gold watch, and then keep walking. And honestly, that's exactly how interesting things get missed nowadays. Because sometimes the value isn't always screaming at you from across the room. Sometimes it's hiding in a tiny little stamp on the back behind a closed door. So let's get a little closer look at it. So on the front here, we have the initials LU Chopard. Now, Chopard isn't some luxury brand that appeared because someone put a fancy logo on the watch and called it a day. No. See, the story actually goes way back to 1860 when 24-year-old Louis Ulysse Chopard opened a precision watchmaking workshop in Sonvier, Switzerland. And this wasn't about making something that simply just looked pretty on your wrist. He built his reputation around precision and accuracy. Also, reliable watchmaking, particularly with highly accurate watches and chronometers. See, that little Swiss workshop eventually grew into one of the world's best known luxury watch houses. So, and those famous LUC initials that you see in the front there, yep, they're not just some fancy letters somebody came up with for branding. They're the initials of Louis Ulysse Chopard himself, which I love because even after all these years, his name is still sitting there on this watch, his legacy preserved. Now, let's actually look at what we're holding. We've got an 18 karat gold, natural tiger's eye dial, sapphire crystal, and this gorgeous integrated mesh bracelet that flows right into this case. And let's actually go back to the dial, because that's what actually had stopped me. Is the tiger's eye is a natural stone, so that beautiful band of light that you're seeing moving across isn't some perfectly printed pattern. It's part of the stone. And because it's natural, the pattern and the cadency of the stone are going to be unique to this particular piece. So basically, nature made the dial and refused to make a duplicate. You can make another watch, though, that looks like this, but you can't make this exact piece of tiger's eye again. And let's actually go back to this mesh bracelet. This is actually just perfectly well designed. I'm just flabbergasted at this one. It's integrated into the design rather than like someone simply slapped a bracelet on the case last minute. And the folds over the clasp that keep the thing particularly enough to wear is also really good. I love the clasp on this as well. It's just perfect. So, although it's 18 karat gold, I might still be walking around like I'm carrying my grandmother's good china and I'm scared to lose it. But now here's where my appraisal brain also kicks in and the fun really starts coming in. Because this is where people stop looking at jewelry like it's jewelry. The stamp in the back is actually 750, which tells us we're looking at 18 karat gold. The LUC, and then it also has Birks on the stamp. It has the Birks stamped here on the band itself, and it's also stamped inside the watch here. Now, Birks was a major Canadian jewelry retailer, not the manufacturer of this watch. And in Canadian retailers like Birks had relationships with major Swiss watchmakers like Longines or Omega, and carried both brands and private label watches for Canadian market. So that little Birks stamp gives this watch an interesting Canadian retail connection. And this isn't exactly why I tell people don't just look at the front I also turn it over and read the marks that look at the construction, look at the material, look at how it's made, because sometimes the most interesting part of the object is hiding in the place nobody bothers to look. And if you're cleaning out a jewelry box or estate, or even just sorting through grandma's old things, don't assume something is ordinary because you don't recognize the name. You might not recognize the name because you've never had a reason to learn it. Some people don't know the brand Omega. Some people don't know the value of older bolivas. So that's the very difference of from it not being important. This little watch weighs 29.25 grams. It is functioning, and the model has since been discontinued. It is a vintage piece. And yes, it's quartz. I know. Some watch people just felt a disturbance in the force right now. But here's the thing, guys. Quartz doesn't suddenly make the 18-karat gold disappear. It doesn't make the natural tiger's eye dial disappear. And it doesn't make the sapphire crystal disappear. And it certainly doesn't erase Chopard off the movement, off the dial. The movement is part of the story. The material, the design, the condition, the provenance, and the markings all matter on top of the quartz. And sometimes the history of where something was sold can matter too. The Birks name does hold a strong value in today's market. And that's why I get a little twitchy when someone says, "Oh, it's just an old watch." Is it really? Because that's the problem with trying to figure out what something is worth just by looking at it. You can miss the entire story. And that's what I love about finding vintage pieces like this. They aren't always obvious. They don't always have a giant price tag attached to them. And they don't always come with a certificate explaining why you should care about it. And sometimes they're sitting quietly in a jewelry box for 30 years whilst everybody assumes they're just another old piece. So until someone finally picks them up, turns them over, takes the back up, and looks at the tiny little stamp and pays attention, that's really what I really want to make these videos for, is a way to show people to just pay a little closer attention to the stuff you're inheriting, and that, because I'm helping families a lot not miss this stuff and not lose its true potential value. So you don't have to know everything. You just have to know what to look for, know the people, the right people to ask these questions. And sometimes one little tiny mark can completely change the conversation. So the next time you're cleaning out a jewelry box and you find a tiny gold watch that doesn't look particularly exciting, don't just walk past it. Pick it up, turn it over, have a look, because you never know what story is hiding on the other side. And this little gold watch has a big name, and honestly, I'd probably pick it up too. Anyways, subscribe and like to my channel so I can make you guys more content and what to look for. I apologize I didn't take off the back of the watch today. I left that to the experts at the expensive watch place so that I did not mess this watch up. However, I will be showcasing many more things like my Omega watch here, and I've also got 2 vintage bolivas as well to showcase, a vintage background. So more coming up. Like and subscribe. Thanks.